Good morning, all my beautiful patrons. Today we're going to be working on our Thanksgiving wreath, which is turkey themed. So this is a different version, so you'll have even another version of a wreath cover to add to whatever wreath collection you have. I am trying to get totally unique wreath covers for each wreath that I do. That way you have a variety of covers to choose from. So you could go back and look at any of my wreaths and find a different cover. So I'm not using exactly the same type. But today's is kind of this wraparound single crochet around the wreath form itself. And then when we're done, we go and add these little feathers, which are these little clusters that have a picot at the top, which gives you a kind of feather look. So also a really good stitch for petals or leaves or anything like that, but I'm using it for the feathers today. So the wreath form itself is supposed to be like the turkey feathers, and then you have the turkey body in the middle, which is I freehanded all of it, so it's got a very unique design, and of course I go through all of that, and then we embroidered the beak and that little red thing, and then I use googly eyes for my eyes, but you could use whatever eyes you would like, and I think they're really cute. It turned out really nice. So, and my googly eyes do move. And then I have just a regular double stringed hanger for mine. So I'm really excited to be able to hang this up. I think it's really cute. So I'm going to go ahead and get onto the tutorial now. So the things that you're going to need you're going to need your wreath form, whatever wreath form you're going to be using. I went ahead and last time I got wreath forms, I just went ahead and grabbed all the ones I was going to need. So I'm going to be using this kind. You could use the foam kind. You could use cardboard. You could use whatever type of wreath form that you would like. But you are going to need whatever wreath form you're going to be using. The size doesn't matter either. So go ahead and get that around. You're going to need your yarns. So I'm going to be using these. I have a dark brown for my turkey. This is a Red Heart Super Saver. I do not know the color. I want to say it's chocolate, but it's just what I had on hand in my stash, and I don't have the band, so any dark brown will work. Worsted weight, of course. I'm going to be using the Red Heart Super Saver Fall for the cover for my wreath form. We are going to be doing a different kind this time, so whatever you choose for to cover your wreath form with, it needs to be something that looks like your turkey feathers. So that's why I chose these. I also had these on hand. I had bought these for my fall wreath and didn't wind up using it for that, so it's perfect for what I have in mind for my Thanksgiving wreath. So, but our wreath cover is going to be our turkey feathers, so it needs to be something along those lines. And then you're going to need some scrap orange and red. You don't need a whole lot. It's just for the beak and the wattle of the turkey, that little red thing that hangs off its nose. I think it's called a wattle, but you're going to need those, so just some scraps of those. And you're also going to need whatever you want for your eyes. I am going to be using googly eyes this time. You can use safety eyes. You can crochet eyes, you could use beads, you could do whatever you choose to do. But I finally found my googly eyes. They were hidden in my younger daughter's bedroom, so I'm going to be using these. And I have a variety of different kinds in here. I have ones that are different colored, they're different sizes. So whatever you choose to use, and I will just go ahead and match up whatever size works best with my turkey. But like I said, you could use safety eyes, you could use buttons, you could use beads, you could just embroider the eyes on, whatever you choose to do. Or you could use googly eyes. You're also going to need your scissors and your yarn needle as usual. You need a hook that fits your yarn. Of course, we're going to be working with worsted weight yarn, so I have a 5mm crochet hook. You could use a 5.5 if you would like. It doesn't really matter because the way we're going to do it, it's more of a stranding type, so we're only really going to be doing single crochet around the edge of our wreath form, which I'll get to in a minute. But you'll need either a 5 or 5.5mm crochet hook. And to get started, you can just set all this stuff aside because we're not going to need it right this second. And you need to get your wreath form out. And you're going to need your yarn for your wreath form. So like I said, I'm going to be using Red Heart Fall. And that's, okay, so we're going to start with a slip knot. And you're going to take that slip knot and you're going to put it underneath your wreath through the center and put that on your hook. And then what we're going to do is, this is going to be, we're just going to chain stitch all the way around until our wreath form is completely covered. So, and it's going to be fiddly at first, and it's going to be super fiddly for me because I'm at a very awkward angle. So we're just going to yarn over and pull through that, and then we're just going to tighten all that up. So just give that a tug, because you want it to be tight. It's fine if it kind of moves back and forth a little bit. It's going to do that naturally anyway. But you don't want it to be really loose, because this is, the more that we do this, it's going to fill up all of our wreath form, and that's what's going to create our cover. So for the next one, you're just going to go underneath and you're going to pull up a loop, and then you're going to yarn over and pull through both of those loops with a slip stitch. And as you can see, as you're doing it, and you want to try and keep this as tight as possible, it's going to fill in all that space. So once again, we're going to go from underneath and pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through both those loops. And you kind of want to tighten it up as much as possible. We want our chain stitches up here to kind of be as even as you can get them. And if you just tug on it a little bit, it usually will work just fine. And then just keep straightening it out and shove them over next to each other. And you're just going to repeat that until your wreath form is completely covered. And like I said, if you just tug on it, it will tighten that loop up right there. And that way, after we get it all covered, we can go back and work into these slip stitches that we're working here along the top with a decorative stitch. So once again, I'm going to go underneath, pull up a loop, and then yarn over and pull through both of those loops, and then tighten that all up. I hope you can see as I'm pulling, it's tightening this previous loop that I did. So go ahead and repeat that until your wreath form is completely covered, and we want it to where it's nice and tight and you cannot see. So like I said, this will be different for every wreath form. So it's really simple. You just keep repeating that over and over again until your wreath form is completely full of these strands. And don't forget to tighten these as you do it, because we want this to be nice and neat up here, because we're going to add we're going to add a row or a couple rows of decorative stitch on top of our wreath form to kind of, you know, give it that turkey feather look. So like I said, go ahead and just finish your entire wreath form, and then when I have finished mine, we'll move on to the next step. So I'll be back. Okay, so I finished all of my wreath, so now we're going to work on the turkey feathers. So the feathers are only going to be half of the wreath, so where you finished off, we're going to start the feather portion and then work to the other side of the wreath directly across from it. It doesn't have to be exact, but we are just going to do half of the wreath with this portion. So what we're going to do is, I have finished my last little wrap around here, and I'm going to slip stitch into this first stitch to join my beginning stitch and my last stitch together. So then we're going to chain one, and that's going to count as our first single crochet here. So we're going to do a half double into that stitch, a double crochet, a treble crochet, all into the same stitch. My yarn is splitting. And then we are going to chain 3, 1, 2, and 3, and this is going to create a picot, and then we are going to slip stitch to join back at the top part of that treble crochet, not to the chain 3s, but the very top of the treble. So just like that, and then we're going to put a double crochet, all working into the same stitch, and then a half double crochet, sorry, my angle is very difficult to work around the actual ring of the wreath form, and then a single crochet, and then in the next stitch we're going to slip stitch to join to the next stitch, and that's just going to kind of finish off our little feather here. So we're going to skip the next 4 stitches, and then we are going to repeat that. So 1, 2, 3, and 4, and in that 5th stitch, we're just going to put a single crochet, a half double crochet, a double crochet, treble crochet, chain 3 for our picot, and then slip stitch to join at the top of that treble. So you're going to be working in the back loop of that very top portion of the treble. And then a double crochet. So we're going to work our way back down the other side. Half double crochet, and then a single crochet. And then slip stitch into the next stitch just to finish that off. So you're going to repeat that exact thing over the same pattern until you get to the other side directly across from where you're at. So exactly half of your wreath form, however big your wreath form may be. So go ahead and do that, and then I will catch up with you when I have completed all of my feathers. Okay, so once you've finished all of your little feather pieces, on your last feather, you end with your single crochet, and then you're going to slip stitch into the next stitch, just like you've been doing, and then you're going to fasten that off and cut your tail. And you should have all of your feathers. Now with this type of way that we're doing the wreath cover, it's not going to be exactly perfect. It's going to have gaps because that's just the nature of the way that we did it, but I think it's perfectly fine. You know, you can see the gaps at the top, but I don't think that anybody's really going to be paying that close attention to your wreath. So we're going to just set this aside. You want to go ahead and hide your end that you just cut off, and by doing that, you just want to kind of run it back through where you just made all of the feather portions at. And it's on the back of the wreath, so it doesn't have to be exactly perfect, but you do need to try and secure that a little bit at least. So if you just run it through that first leaf and then cut it off, you'll be fine. So like I said, we're going to set this aside for now, and we're going to work on the actual turkey body. So this is what the turkey body looks like. It has to be long enough to be able to cover the center portion of the wreath and reach the top the top portion. So that is why it looks like that. So it looks something like that. And I have already worked mine up, so I'm going to work another one in white so you'll be able to see it a lot better than this dark brown. But you do want to work yours in a brown. Mine is, I believe it's Red Heart Chocolate, but any dark brown will work. You could even use a light brown if you wanted. But I'm going to be working my sample piece in white so you can see it better, because the dark colors don't show up on the camera very well. So I went ahead and worked up my turkey portion, and I am referring to my notes. So if you hear me pause, that would be why I'm checking my notes. So we are going to start off with a chain of 17. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. So we are going to put 1 double crochet in to the second chain from the hook, and then 1 double crochet in every stitch across. And I am working in the back loops. Just so we have a nice neat edge. Okay, so that was my last stitch. So we're going to chain 1 and turn. So in this first stitch, we're going to put 2 double crochets for an increase. And then 1 stitch in every stitch across until you get to the last one, and then we are going to put 2 double crochets in it for an increase too. So we're trying to widen the body of the turkey a little bit. So this is our last stitch. We're going to put 2 double crochets into it. Oops. So this one is our last stitch. We're going to put 2 double crochets into it, and it will be your chain 2. So you're going to chain 1, and we're going to put 1 double crochet in every stitch across. So we are going to chain 1 and turn, and we are going to repeat row 2, which is an increase in the first stitch, 1 double crochet in every stitch until the last, and then an increase in the last stitch. So 2 double crochets in the first stitch for an increase, and then 1 double crochet in every stitch until the last, sorry about that, my camera cut out for some reason. So For this row we were doing 2 double crochets in the beginning stitch, 1 double crochet in every stitch to the last, and then in the last stitch 2 double crochets for an increase. So I'm still working on the 1 double crochets, and I'm almost to my last stitch. And then in that last stitch we're going to put 2 double crochets. Then we're going to chain 1 and turn. And then we're going to put 1 double crochet in every stitch across. Okay, in the last stitch, so 1 double crochet. So that is what you should have so far. Okay, for the next row, we're going to chain 1 and turn. And we're going to put an increase in that beginning stitch and in the last, and then 1 double crochet in every stitch in between. So 2 double crochets in that very beginning stitch for an increase. And then 1 double crochet in every stitch until the last. Okay, so here's my last stitch. So we're going to put an increase in it. So that's 2 double crochets. Okay, then we're going to chain 1 and turn. And we're going to put 1 double crochet in every stitch across. And here's my last stitch. And we're going to chain 1 and turn. And we're going to repeat that row. So 1 double crochet in every stitch. Here's my last stitch. And this is where we're going to start decreasing the body back down. So we increased it so it gets wider, and now we're going to decrease it for the top of the turkey body. So it looks like this. It's kind of fat in the middle and then smaller on both the top and the bottom. So we're going to chain 1 and turn. And we're going to decrease these first 2 stitches and then 1 double crochet in every stitch until your last 2, and then decrease the last 2. So I decreased the first 2, and now I'm going to put 1 double crochet in every stitch until the last 2 stitches. So into my last 2 stitches, and I'm going to decrease those 2. And then we're going to chain 1 and turn. This yarn is giving me serious troubles today. So we're just going to put 1 double crochet in every stitch across. So there's the last stitch on that, on row 10. So for row 11, we are going to decrease the first 2 stitches, 1 double crochet in every stitch until the last 2, and then decrease the last 2 stitches. So I decreased the first 2, and now I'm going to put 1 double crochet in every stitch until the last 2. So here's my last 2 stitches, and I'm going to decrease those. So I'm going to chain 1 and turn. And we are going to repeat that last row, so we're going to decrease the first 2 stitches. Okay, so we're going to repeat that last row. We're going to decrease the first 2 stitches, 1 double crochet in every stitch across until the last 2, and then decrease those last 2 stitches. Alright, I'm at my last 2 stitches, so I'm going to decrease those. And then we are going to fasten off and attach our yarn for the neck. So go ahead and fasten off. So we're going to go ahead and turn, and we're going to count over 6 stitches. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And in that 6th stitch, we're going to attach our yarn. So however it is that you normally attach your yarn, go ahead and do it in that 6th stitch. Okay, so we're going to put a double crochet into that stitch that we just attached into, and then we're going to work over the next 4 stitches to have a total of 5 stitches for the neck. So 1 double crochet in the next 4 stitches. 3, 4, and 5. So a total of 5, including the one that you just worked into. Okay, so we are going to chain 1 and turn, and we are just going to put 1 double crochet in every stitch. So we are working on the neck portion. We're going to chain 1 and turn. And 1 double crochet in every stitch. Chain 1 and turn. 1 double crochet in every stitch. chain 1 and turn, one double crochet in every stitch, chain 1 and turn, one double crochet in every stitch, chain 1 and turn, and we're going to start working on the head portion now. So we're going to start increasing. So we're going to put 2 double crochets in that first stitch, and then 1 double crochet in every stitch until the last, and then 2 double crochets in the last stitch. And then 1 double crochet until our last stitch. And then 2 double crochets in the last for an increase. Chain 1 and turn. So for this row, we're just going to do 1 double crochet in every stitch across. Chain 1 and turn. So we're going to increase again, so 2 double crochets in the first stitch, 1 double crochet in each of the next stitches until the last stitch. And then 2 double crochet in the last stitch. Chain 1 and turn. One double crochet in every stitch across. Here's my last stitch. Okay, now we're going to start decreasing for the top of the head. So we're going to chain 1 and turn, and we're going to decrease these first 2 stitches, and then 1 double crochet in every stitch until the last 2, and then decrease the last 2 stitches. Here's my last 2 stitches, so I'm going to decrease those. Chain 1 and turn. And we are going to repeat that row 2 more times. So decrease the first 2 stitches, 1 double crochet in the stitches in between, and then decrease the last 2 stitches. And this is just going to give the turkey's head its shape. Here's my last 2 stitches, so I'm going to decrease those. I'm going to chain 1 and turn, and we are going to repeat that again. So decrease the first 2 stitches, 1 double crochet in the stitches in between, and then decrease the last 2 stitches. Which in this instance, there's only 1 stitch in between for this last row. And then decrease the last 2 stitches. And then we are going to fasten off. So fasten off and cut your string. I'm not going to do that because this is just scrap, so I want to be able to unwind this again and wind it back up. So once you've done that, you should have, go ahead and hide your end. You should have what looks like this. So you have the turkey's body. If your wreath happens to be bigger than mine, you could always extend the turkey by adding more rows. Let me look it up. At row 17, if you add more rows there, you'll be able to extend the body of your turkey, and you can add more rows to the neck, and that should be able to make your turkey bigger. But since my wreath is kind of a standard size, I just went off the one that I had. So definitely you can adjust this to whatever size wreath that you have. So we're going to be moving on to the face portion of our turkey. So like I said, I'm going to be using googly eyes. You can use safety eyes, you could use buttons, you could crochet eyes if you wanted. It's completely up to you. But I am a big fan of googly eyes, especially for turkeys. So I just need to figure out what size I want. I think I'm going to go with that bigger size. You can also have one eye bigger than the other, and that'll kind of give your turkey a little bit of a quirky look to its face. If that's what you would like. So you're going to go ahead and heat up your glue gun. Make sure you have extra glue on hand. So we're going to go ahead and glue on our eyes. That way we kind of know where we want to place our beak and the little red thing. Kind of want to center it. So if this is the bottom of the head and this is the top, you kind of want to place the eyes where they should be, you know, kind of towards the top. So we are just going to embroider the beak and the little red thing on. You could most definitely crochet a triangle for the beak if you wanted, and you know, like a teardrop shape for the red portion. But like I said, I'm just going to embroider it on, just simply because, you know, I I'm still having issues with my elbows, so the less I have to crochet, the better off that I am. So I'm just waiting on my glue gun to heat up. I should have been more prepared. Okay, so I'm just going to glue my little googly eyes into place. So you go ahead and attach whatever eyes it is that you're using. And leave your glue gun on because you are going to need that to attach your turkey body to your wreath. So go ahead and get some of your orange. You're going to want to pull off a good portion of it. And you're going to need your yarn needle. And we are just going to tie these two ends together. And don't worry about the tails, you can cut that off later. You do want to make sure that your string is even. And you want to figure out where you want your beak to be. And you need to keep in mind that you don't want to go in through the holes that are in between the stitches if you can help it, because that will create a huge gap, and we don't really want a huge gap in our turkey face. So try and go through the center of a stitch if you can, and just come up through the front. And then we're just going to go over and we're going to create a little triangle. And what I like to do is I like to keep this portion pulled out like this so I can go back through it just to secure that tail. So see how I'm going through the center of that? And that's just going to secure that tail into place, and it's not going to pull all the way through. So just like that. You don't want to pull it real tight, you just want to pull it through. We want this to look nice and neat, but not overly tight because it'll pucker your work. So just like that. And then we're going to come down here to the point where we want our beak to end and come back through that. The back of the work does not matter what it looks like, because it's going to be facing the back of what we're doing anyway. So and how I do it is I go just over where my top line is. And you want to make sure that your yarn doesn't get all twisted. Just like that, and we're going to go back through that same spot and go to the other side. So you see you have your little triangle shape, and then we're just going to fill it in. So you're just going to work your way across, filling in the space. And I tend to go back and forth and then work my way towards the center from both sides. So kind of like that. And then I'll just have one more right up the center. So that is my little beak shape. As long as it's a semi-triangle shape, you're good. And then I'm just gonna tie a little knot in the back of the work. And this is just to secure that my beak doesn't come undone. And then you can just cut that off. And you can cut your little ends from your beginning stitch. So we're not going to need a whole lot of red. We're just going to make a couple little stitches. So go ahead and knot it just like before. And choose whatever side you're going to have it on, and I'm going to have it on what is my right side, so it's facing me. So I'm just going to come up directly at the top corner of this beak, and I'm going to hold that down because that's where I'm going to go. I'm going to go down here with it. And then we're going to go down here through the center of our little loop. And then we're just going to do that a couple times just to build up that little red portion. So just like that, and then you can just tie it off. Got that a little loose. So what you can do is, since I got this a little bit loose, I should pay more attention, is just tie this in a knot. And that will secure it. So just like that. And then you can just cut those ends off. Okay, so that is your turkey face. I think he's really cute. So now we are going to work on attaching our turkey to our wreath, and that is the last little section of our wreath that we have to do. So I'm just going to clean off my area a little bit. So you want to make sure that you have your wreath sitting the right way. It's completely straight, so because we don't want a crooked turkey. And then you're just going to place him. I hope that I can get this in frame. So we're going to place his bottom towards the bottom rim right here. And we're just going to glue him in place. And then once that's glued, then we'll work on attaching his head. And the rest will just kind of lay there. But see how you want your feathers to be completely straight on both sides. We want all of our feathers to be even. So just like that. And I hope that I can get this in frame where you can see what I'm doing. So I am just going to put some hot glue on his little bottom right here. As quickly as I can without burning myself. So just like that. And please be careful when you're pushing this down, because the hot glue can seep through the holes. And I most definitely wouldn't want anybody to get burnt. And we want to try our very hardest not to get it on the front portion. Okay. So just go ahead and go around the edges just to make sure, because this is going to be outside. We do want to make sure that it's secure, especially if you live in a windy place like I do. The wind is so hard on my wreaths. Okay, now you can flip this up and you can see pretty much where the turkey is going to lie, so you can just kind of put some blobs just like that, and then gently flip him up. And then once again go along the side. Make sure he's all secure. Sorry, I hope I'm not out of frame. So we're going to let the body just cool off, and then we will work on attaching the head. Okay, so now that he's secure everywhere he needs to be, we're going to work on attaching his head. So I'm just going to go ahead and turn him around, and hopefully that you can see. Yeah. So we want to make him as straight as possible. You really don't want to stretch him, but we do want his head to lay across the top of the wreath. So I can see that I need mine to be about even with the beak, so everything above the beak will have to be hot glued as quickly as possible. And then you can always go back and work on the edges after you're done. Okay, now once he's secure, you are pretty much done other than attaching your ring holder, or your wreath holder, I mean. So you can go ahead and unplug your glue gun. And for me, I'm just going to double up some string and attach it on the back. So you go ahead and do however you like to do yours. So I'm just going to run both of my ends through like that, and then I'm going to flip it over. And since I know this is my turkey, I know I need to have it at the top of where my turkey head is. And then I can just tie a knot in that. And the reason why I doubled it up is so it's a little more secure than just one string. So just like that. And then you can just cut those ends off. I have a little straggler there. And what I like to do is while my glue gun's still hot, I just like to put a little dab of glue across that knot so there's no way that it can come undone. And then I'm just going to roll it to where it's on the inside of my wreath. So I hope that you're able to see that. And that little hot glue will hold it in place so it doesn't move around. And you won't be able to see it from the front. So there is your finished Thanksgiving wreath. I hope you guys like it and have a great day.